This is a quick example of showing you how to set up your quantitative library for standards on your system. A couple things we need to do. One is to select what set of conditions I want to work at. This time I've chosen to work at 15 kV, my nominal 35-degree takeoff angle at 10 millimeters working distance. I have my spectrometer set up and the position I want. Since I'm going to be working with standards, the first thing I'm going to want to do is just to re-verify my energy calibration. So I'm going to quickly go over to spectrometer, go over to my copper standard or reference that I'm using, and I'm going to calibrate the mode I'm going to work in. So I've elected to work in the 130,000 K mode, 20 K EV range, which is 5 EV per channel, which is ideal for this set of conditions. And I'm just going to quickly start the acquisition, and I'm just going to worry about that one mode. So the system will make all the adjustments, collect, and show me the results. I'm satisfied with that. I'll save those set of conditions. And now I want to go set up my library of standards. So I'm going to go into Quant. If I haven't created a library, the first thing I'm going to do is set up a new library. So I'm going to say New, type in what set of conditions, or if I'm using a previously set up spectrum, I can bring that in as well. Or I can enter in all my parameters. So I'm going to call this Ted's Quant library. I have my analytical conditions in here, and the next thing we need to do is set up our probe current. So to do that, if you don't have a picoamp meter, the way you can do it is directly in the software. You can do what's called the system factor, and what this is going to do is this is going to collect a copper spectrum under the conditions at which I want to work. So I'll adjust my probe current to the count rate I wish to have for this library and for today. So with that established now, I'm going to hit acquire. It's going to collect the copper spectrum for 20 seconds as I've set up here. And it's basically taking a ratio of the zero stroke peak to portion of the background, and it's using that as a reference for probe current. If I see my probe current changes, or I do change my probe current, I'll need to update this. But if everything stays stable and my microscope is stable, I'll be good for several hours. So with that established, I'm now going to go over to my stainless steel, and that's what I'm going to use for a standard. I've got my systems adjusted the way I want, and I'm going to collect for approximately 20 seconds live time for this analysis. That under the conditions in which I'm working, which is about 70,000 counts a second, I'll have more than enough statistics for that. Alternative mode is I could manually go until I'm satisfied. I could set up a region of interest on the spectrum and collect for fixed counts, or I could use one of the automatic modes for this. I've elected to use live time. So with that set up, I'm just going to simply hit acquire. Alright, I'm going to do my identification. If it wasn't updated already, I would update it. So with my spectrum collected, I'm going to save that right now to disk. So I'm simply going to come here, press save, give it a name, and now we want to go into our quant library. Now as an alternative, I could have collected it in here as well. I find it just as easy to bring in a previously collected spectrum. So there it is. Alright, the next thing now is we need to validate or tell the system the concentrations of my reference standard. So I'm going to set the method that I want to use for quant. So in this case, I have a general analysis method. All right, or I can use any of the advanced method analysis that have already been established for me. So I can do either one, whichever I want. So I can either use one that's been established or one I've created on my own. So I'm going to use one I've created on my own. Hit validate. The system will come up here, show you the results of what it sees based on the analysis. I can come in here now and update this. So I'm satisfied with that. The background subtraction looks good. Everything in here looks fairly good. So what we're going to do is come in here now, and I'm going to say add to standards. And the system will automatically pick up those quant numbers for me. And in this case, those are exactly the ones I want. They're right on for the analysis. If they were different than what they should be, I can come in here now and edit the correct values. All right, but in this case, this is exactly what they should be. So we're going to say add to library. And the system will select all the elements that are in there, and I can deselect any ones I don't want to include. So if I knew, let's say I had a slight contamination, or I wasn't that secure about utilizing a manganese peak that was only at 1.5%, I can strip those out. The system will also set up your Cliff Lorimer if you have Cliff Lorimer, so it does both things for you at the same time. In this case, we're just simply going to accept what it's come up with for our analysis. So with that, I now have a standard set up, and the system now highlights, and as I click on it, it will show me what elements and the spectrum if they were different. Down here it shows me that currently the way the system is set up for these elements, it's going to use chromium as the active element, so that's for the intensity. But it's going to use standard list for the deconvolution. If you wish, I could tell it to also use that chromium peak for the deconvolution as well. Typically we like to use something that's not overlap for deconvolution. So I'm going to leave it set for standard list. So with that, I'm perfectly satisfied with these results. I'm going to close this, and now to do my unknown, I'm going to use object mode. So I'm going to go over to object mode. I will collect my field of view. There it is. And I'm going to elect to do a couple of discrete points. So in this case, I'm going to do 3 points. Select all. I'm also going to come in here, set up my acquisition. So in this time, I'm going to do, again, 20 seconds at each point. Have it collect. Okay, with that established, that looks fine. We'll hit acquire. While it's doing that, I'll do my ID for everything on here. Now, as long as my probe current hasn't changed, my factors will be put in here. And again, if you double click on your name stripe here, there's your system factor. So it's being incorporated as part of the analysis set automatically. Now, we're now on the second spectrum, second region. Again, I'll just update the ID. That looks fine. And then finally, we're on the third one here. So again, I'm just going to update the ID for that. Okay. All right, so with that established, if I want to now quantify any of these spectrum utilizing that standard, I'm going to select my quant mode. So now I'm going to come in here, hit load, and I'm going to use the same methodology I just used before. So I'm going to use the general analysis on that. So the only thing I'm going to do differently is I'm going to quickly edit that, and in my matrix program, PBZAF, I'm going to tell it to use PhyroZ and standards for this analysis. All right, which is usually the best way of doing it. I'm also going to tell it to use the element standards that are on the display, and we'll apply that. And now if I hit quantify, here's the results. So now also I'm going to turn on mass percent, none on normalized. Generally, if we've done a good quantitative analysis and accounted for everything, we expect our totals to fall between 97 and 103%. And as you see, this is 99.84. That looks great. I'm going to do my other one. Hit quantify. And that came to 98.6. That's excellent. So I have my analysis. I'm satisfied with that. This one I'm going to not bother with right now. But if I want to put this all up in my report with that highlighted, I can select my method. So I have multi-point in here. I'm going to say add to report. Click on report. There's my image. There are my spectrum. And there's my quant in an Excel spreadsheet. All done together. So that's the basic way of working with standards. Again, the only thing you're going to ever have to update at this point now is your system factor. So if you quit the program, stop the analysis for several hours, it's going to require you to update that in order to use the standards again. Otherwise, it'll switch you to standardless.